zoom out from the constellation of stars, and this is the star grille on the EQA. And of course, there's this optic fiber connected tail lamp right here. These LEDs ensure that the beam adapts basis the traffic and conditions. And now, since we can give all our opinions about this particular vehicle, let me tell you, this is a very commanding approach, sort of a presence on the EQA. It's deceptively big. It looks quite big on the road, and I think if you look at the side profile as well, and this is an entry-level EV for Mercedes here in India, and just check out how they haven't skimped on even these sports alloys. AMG sports alloys, lightweight, look very classy, and 19 inches of that. Honestly, the ride quality is dictated to a large extent by what they've done with this. The car is incredibly smooth while you're taking it, like you'll see on-road, off-road, up the mountains, into the forts. This is a car that genuinely seems to work on Indian roads. I'll show you the back of the car as well very quickly. And over here, I think it does seem a little bit more like a smaller compact SUV. The 250 plus indicating that this has a whole lot of range. When I say a whole lot of range, Mercedes says 560 kilometers, but in the real world, if you can get anywhere between 400 to 450 kilometers, that is crazy for an entry-level EV. When I say entry-level, for Mercedes now, the price has been revealed, sub 70 lakhs for this car. And the cost of ownership, if you compare it to its ICE counterpart, you've seen that on Tech Today last week. It's absolutely crazy that this, in terms of cost of ownership, and you really let it even out over a certain period of time, and you'll realize that this is a more cost-effective option to its own ICE counterpart, that's the GLA. Now, you see out here in the back as well, there's this connected tail lamp. And if you open the boot, of course, they've had to fit in the battery pack over here, but it's a fairly decent sized boot. We've put all of our shoot equipment over here, and there's place for a lot more. Maybe our check-in baggage for the way back will also fit right here in the boot. All right, if you want to recharge, of course, that's a very nifty little flap over there, and you open up in the back seat of the car. Ingress, egress with someone nearly 6 feet tall, not much of an issue, but you see that there's not much thigh support, and it does seem a little cramped, especially when you're taking it on a long drive. Maybe this is not the seat to be seated in. This is not a car to be driven around in. It's a car that you want to drive. I think that's what Mercedes Electric is all about. And when you come right here into the front of the car, you feel like you are sitting in an electric SUV from the German stables. What does it drive like? We will tell you that. But if you have a quick look at the design over here, right? You see this starlit bit over here. You see this same star constellation design extending over here as well. You see the MBUX system with this connected screen. There's a little difference in terms of tone. There's a rose gold finish to the AC vents, which makes it quite special if you ask me. A lot of storage in the front of the car. You can fit stuff right over here. You have wireless charging. You can even do things right over here. But I want you to come and have a look at the technology features here to give you a little bit more of an insight in terms of what this car is all about. Join me. The minute you sit in the EQA, it feels like you are sitting in a premium SUV. And honestly, it seems a little cramped in the back. It doesn't seem that big altogether, but when you're sat over here, you could believe that this is a class above its own punching weight. But all of that aside, you see design all over. You see the same constellation here. So with Mercedes, there's a huge focus on sustainability. Even though they will reach their electrification goal, they want to focus on things that are eco-friendly. For instance, this seat fabric that you see over here might not look like leather. That's because it's actually from recycled plastic bottles. I kid you not. I'm here at the Rambagh Palace, and that's what they've done with this particular seat fabric. When you have two 10.25-inch screens connected over here, which house MBUX, a very, very efficient operating system user interface is very smooth like every other Mercedes electric vehicle. Plenty of storage space over here, wireless charging, which always seems to work like a charm. You have storage space over here, and then obviously USB-C, and you can also keep stuff over here on this particular mat if you want to change things around. Comfort, eco, sport, individual, all of that can be done over here. The volume key is this rocker that's very satisfying to touch if you're into ASMR sounds. And if you go into the parking modes, you can obviously use the auto parking feature on the EQA. You can have a look at the front camera, the rear camera, sides, and then we can also do a sort of a touch gesture right here, and then that opens up the camera. Another interesting thing was when we were at traffic lights over here in Jaipur, suddenly this came on with a traffic view, telling you that you have a traffic light up ahead and this is what the junction's like. That's not all. It's also that they're really innovating, because I think tech is the main focus for EVs and for the automotive sector in general for the next few years. If you actually look at what happens with the Mercedes navigation, which is also an option if you don't want to use Android Auto or CarPlay, is if you set a destination and you put the car in drive, of course you have a heads-up display here, but just like Google now does with Google Maps on your phones and stuff like that, this now does something that takes it to the next level in terms of turn-by-turn navigation. It's augmented reality, and that is some sort of tech that I want to see. So if you're proceeding towards a turn, it will show you what the front camera is seeing. So if this is the street right ahead of me, you will see that. And like you can see now, it's actually gone with AR and projected that turn. Right? This is something really cool if it works. We've seen something like this with the BMW i7, but then that was only visible over here in a small little cluster. Here it's on the main screen, and it also shows up in the heads-up display. So well done, Mercedes, with this implementation of AR tech. Well, if you're an audiophile like me, and if you're spending nearly 70 lakh rupees on an EV, although this is an entry-level EV for the Mercedes brand, you'll want a top-end sound system, right? This one actually has a best in its segment Burmester sound system, which sounds absolutely amazing. But honestly, when you get into any Mercedes car, I think the sound is great. It's also great with the BMWs. There's very few cars where we don't seem to enjoy the sound as much. But now I'm seeing those peacocks up ahead. If you can just pan the camera right there, well, you're seeing so much of flora and fauna in the middle of the city. I think I need to take this for a little bit of a spin and tell you a little bit more about ride quality. What I'm going to do is set my navigation system and maybe follow this new AR Maps feature and take you for a little bit of a drive and tell you what this car is like on all four wheels. So I'm quite pleasantly surprised that Jaipur and Rajasthan offer a plethora, a lot of diversity when it comes to landscapes and drive locations. We've come up to this fort, and I'm very interested to see what driving down to the city from this fort really means, because back in the day these forts were built at these high vantage points, right? That's where the armies used to be positioned. But now we're going down to the city, and this is an EV, so regen braking will work. Strong recuperation is on. Well, peacocks everywhere as we drive down from Jaigarh Fort, and that's quite a cool thing to see here in Rajasthan. It's getting really hot, so this is the ultimate test of an EV battery as well, because there's so much conversation about what these hot, humid temperature, weather conditions in India mean for these EVs. I think Mercedes has sort of gotten that right already, because with the EQC earlier, it wasn't the best performing car for them, and honestly it wasn't, and I think that's something they would also concede to. But then how they've grown from strength to strength. I remember on Tech Today when we had the EQS, it was perhaps the best EV we've driven on the show, and it probably still is in India. And then we saw, of course, what they've done with the EQB, and how a lot of the learnings from the electric lineup, from the EQ lineup, have moved to the rest of their GLCs, their GLSs, and all the other cars we've really driven on the show. They say Mercedes cars traditionally are cars that you want to be driven around in, whereas BMWs are cars which are meant for the performance enthusiasts. But with Mercedes EVs, I've noticed a slight shift in that narrative. I feel like These EVs are meant to be driven. Honestly, this one I was seated at the back. We believe in complete honest feedback. It was not the most comfortable. It's a small car. This is the entry-level EV. So if you're young, you're in college, or you're 25 to 35 years old, sitting in the front with your partner, or if you're a young couple and you have kids at the back, it's fine. If you're a fully grown adult, the back seat on these long winding roads was not the most comfortable. So this now is a car that you want to drive, not necessarily a car that you need to be driven in. What is the ride quality like in the Mercedes EQA? I'm coasting down these sort of hillocks here in Jaipur, and the car is very planted. It responds quite well even at low speeds. I haven't had a chance really to rip it apart and drive it really fast, but the car gives you a sense that you are in control, and I think that's something which is truly Mercedes, especially with what we've seen with the EQS and the other EQ lineup. I think it's become a constant, consistent DNA for them, and they're getting better with range. They're understanding what kind of features the youth want, and I think that is genuinely the key. What a drive in the new Mercedes EQA 250 Plus. This is a fascinating location, honestly, to be here at the Rambagh Palace with this sort of view and this sort of EV. A couple of things that I did want to mention as well. It has advanced level ADAS 1, and one important safety feature that must be mentioned is that it comes with airbags. 7 airbags is standard, and a knee airbag as well. So a focus on safety by Mercedes. But now let me tell you what I think of this particular vehicle. With the graphs that we've been seeing over the past couple of weeks with cost of ownership, what it means in terms of depreciation, owning a petrol car or a diesel car versus owning an EV, what's it like in terms of how will people be charging in the cities? I'm pleasantly surprised that here in Jaipur, there's a bunch of fast chargers. In our hotel, we have 3 or 4 that I actually saw that you could actually plug this to as well. So that is a good start. Now, from my conversation with the MD and CEO of Mercedes-Benz India, my question to him was, why can't we go big on hybrids? Because Mercedes has a bunch of them in their stables, but this is not only the future when it comes to what the Indian government wants, what a lot of these top car makers are doing as well. It's probably leapfrogging that one level of innovation. And as a tech enthusiast, I can't necessarily be unhappy with that sort of approach, because it's a chicken and egg sort of a situation. When we see good tech coming in over here, when all the top brands are coming in with the best, the pinnacle of technology, and then we have the government coming in with these fast charging stations, and most importantly, when these brands are selling you these cars, you have a home charger, which is much cheaper to use, it's much more eco-friendly, and if you plan your travels, honestly, you never need to visit a fast charger as well. You'd rather use your home charger. It's also, I think, better in the long run for your battery. With all of that, and given the fact that if you can get 400 or 450 kilometers on a single charge on Mercedes entry-level EV, then you know that the tides have turned, and then you know that the EV revolution is gathering steam yet again. The Mercedes EQA, I think, at this price point, the fact that you're getting this badging, and you will be getting a green number plate once this is registered. The only others in this space, if you want to really compare a car in that price point, I mean, would I spend my money on a Kia EV6? That's a Kia. This is a Mercedes. So it comes with that promise of German engineering and everything that works so consistently within that cockpit. Is it a family car? No. Is it a car for millennials and Gen Z and who want to sit in the front, or maybe young couples or young families with their kids at the back? Maybe. Great performance. If you're getting 400, 450 kilometers on a single charge, there's fast charging available as well. And 0 to 100 in under 9 seconds. So you can do things responsibly with all those safety features. I think this is a car which will genuinely be a game changer for the EV segment, because there are EVs in the affordable category now, but then they're coming with their fair set of challenges. And then charging, range anxiety, these are still issues that exist in that bracket. In the mid-level, there's not too many players. This now comes in just entering into that higher level, the luxury level, where there's a lot of its elder siblings there already. But that technology is getting better. Innovation is growing exponentially. And I honestly think the EQA hits the sweet spot for luxury and technology.